Today, January 14th, a Sunday, is a historic day, so to say, for one big reason. And it is because today is the day that the Detroit Lions have finally, and after years of pain, toiling, suffering, and disappointment, the Detroit Lions have finally won a playoff game. For the first time since I've been a fan of the Detroit Lions, and for some who have been even longer lifetime fans of the Detroit Lions, the Lions have finally managed to do what many thought would be very improbable, and that is to win a playoff game. For the first time since 1991, the Detroit Lions will advance to the next round of playoffs. What a historic day. Now, many of you might be wondering, well, what's so important about a playoff win? I mean, it's no big deal. Many teams do it all the time. Rookies, CJ Stroud and Jordan Love just did the same feat just hours earlier and a day earlier, respectively. Well, what's really important is that as us Lions fans have come to all know, the three letters SOL, same old Lions. And for many around Michigan, and for many of us Lions fans who are maybe not native to Michigan, but have found a special place in their heart to love this very hard to love team. Well, the same old Lions were not the same old Lions today. Normally, you'd watch games of them just throwing the ball and get no results, just finding ways and new and creative ways to lose. Sometimes because of their own decisions, and other times because of the referees. Many of us remember the infamous Cowboys game from a decade ago, and just the one most recently, which, for the first time as a Lions fan, I actually was a little bit happy for the Packers. Not a lot, just simply not happiness, but just okay with the fact that the Cowboys are not going to advance. But the Lions fans have been through a lot. And today, for the first time since 1991, the Lions have won a playoff victory. And you could go on your phone and do something that has never been done, at least not in a sense that lives in the same realm of reality. You can text a friend, a Lions fan, so to say. The Detroit Lions have won. For the first time in text or on the internet. That's how long it has been for us. And the pain, from the Calvin Johnson rule to Barry Sanders' retirement, through the entire Matt Millen era, through the Calvin Johnson era and watching him retire early, through whatever the heck that was with Matt Patricia, through the terrible Hail Mary back a couple of years ago with Aaron Rodgers. There's just always been ways, the Detroit Lions, and every inventive way was just soul-crushing and painful, and more inventive than the next, in which way we found ways to lose. But today is not that day. For the first time in a long time, we can actually cheer on the Detroit Lions and actually feel something other than just vapid emptiness and a pit of immiserating depression that haunts every Detroit Lion. Oh boy, for the first time, you can probably go on social media and, only find a few negative comments in the sea of happiness. Lions fans were just so shocked today by the wins. You actually saw tears out of many people's eyes. I myself was very emotional in just watching the game. I'd never been that nervous watching a football game because all the stuff, though, that we've been through just kept coming back. I was like, can this just be finally the time that I can feel proud to be a Lions fan? Because we've been through so much. Just to put in perspective, remember how I mentioned CJ Stroud and Jordan Love earlier? Well, those two guys, just as rookies or playing in their rookie year, matched the Detroit Lions all-time total win in the Super Bowl era. That is until tonight. Meaning that until this game today, Jordan Love had the same amount of playoff wins as the entire Detroit Lions franchise has since the Super Bowl era began. If you go to Detroit Lions Stadium, you see a couple of banners. I've been there myself. I watched them play the Giants a couple of years back, and all you see is a couple of dusty banners up in the rafters. One that says the championships from the 1950s when Eisenhower was in office, and another couple of division titles, mostly from like the 90s. I think 93, 91. I can't remember what the other one is. And of course, the one from this year. As a matter of fact, to explain the futility of the Detroit Lions, just think the Detroit Lions, the last time they won the division before this year was in 1993 when it was called the NFC Central. Now, what's so special about that? Why would Detroit Lions fans just be like, well, a lot of teams don't win their divisions? Well, first off, not only have we not won the division, but we haven't won very many playoff games in that stretch. Unlike some franchises who've won on a road, upset some people, like the Jets, most famously, who've had 2 back-to-back years where they went to the AFC Championship game. No. We never accomplished anything like that. We never upset anybody in the playoffs or made anybody worry about playing a defense or thing. No. We did not do that. We were so futile that last time we won the division before this year was in 1993 when it was the NFC Central, when we were playing in the same division as Tampa Bay, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And to show you how futile it is, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have won that division more recently, being in the same division than Detroit Lions. The divisions realigned in 2000, give or take. And since then, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers have won 2 Super Bowls. They've won 3 straight division titles. Of course, it is against the AFC South. Somebody has to win the AFC South. But again, the Lions have just kind of found new ways to be absolutely miserable. Now, other teams have done worse in the last 20 years. The Browns come to note, maybe the Raiders and Washington. But the Lions have just been historically bad. It's like we might have been better in the last 20 years than some of those teams, but not by a whole lot. But historically, when you take a look at the bigger picture, just outright nothing to be proud of in that legacy. Nothing, except maybe a few key players that retired way too early. That's it. So, but here we are today. For the first time, I don't know how to express my emotions because I actually kind of feel happy a little bit. I mean, I'm just glad not to have the nerves that I had earlier watching that game, which, by the way, shout out to Matthew Stafford for just absolutely doing what Matthew Stafford did for us and now he did for the Rams and just keep the game down to the wire until the very last second. Because, when Matthew Stafford came in, we were no longer losing by complete blowouts, and every game came down to the last second, but we could just never get the right side of the coin flip. But I'm glad Matthew Stafford and that trade happened. I was so glad to see him go. Not because we became better. We did not become better, at least not in the first not the first year for sure. Overall, I think we have treaded in the right direction. No, I was glad to see Matthew Stafford go for one reason, because I knew that if he stayed in Detroit and if he carried that same baggage, because if you stay in Detroit for too long, you kind of, there's an aura that people kind of like, there's baggage, there's a weight that gets put on your shoulders. And it's hard to sometimes move all that weight off your shoulders and achieve in Detroit. And Matthew Stafford was not going to be the guy who was going to do it. There's just too many things and too much history. I mean, he tried. He really tried. It's not for lack of effort. But he just wasn't it. And I was glad to see him go to a good team and do what he was set out to do. In the first year, the Rams got exactly what they wanted. And I was happy for Matthew Stafford. But then he came to Detroit and he played us. No, Matthew Stafford had to lose in Detroit. Because Matthew Stafford got his, the Rams got theirs, they got their Super Bowl. And we had to prove that the Rams traded for the short term and we got the better long-term deal, which we did. And the Lions, for the first time, again, in 30 years, can say, hey, on to next week, on to the next round of the playoffs, on to the divisionals. Let's figure out what's what and who we really are. you know? And also, for the first time in 30 years, this feels a little bit different. And the reason I say that is because the Detroit Lions today won as a team, as one unit. Jared Goff was an important part of it for sure, but it was a combination of our running backs, our receivers, Jared Goff, the offense. The defense made a stop when they needed to. You know, they couldn't stop anything for the whole day. And then finally at the last drive, boy, that critical holding penalty maybe got a little help from the refs, but I think it balances out on that terrible call at the end of the first half. So kind of balances out there. Detroit finally won as a team and not relying on one player or one quarterback, but on the whole entire team. So this does feel a little bit different than 1991, which I was just a baby for that one. So I don't even I can't even speak to that. Anyway, as you can tell, I'm pretty tired, but I'm pretty excited on the inside. I'm very excited because let's go, baby. Let's go. Detroit finally did it. We finally did something. We'll see what we can do next week. Hopefully this team, I mean, this is the kind of energy and the kind of hype we need. Now, this is a message, PSA to all my Detroit Lions fans out there and to Michigan. Detroit, we did it. We did it. But you got to show up next week. We got to do it again. So don't go too crazy. Don't party too hard. For the first time in a long time, I can say there's a next week. And we'll need that energy in the building to accomplish another feat, another success. Need to be louder. Need to be more boisterous. Need to be that crowd. We need to bring back even more excitement next week. I mean, it's an exciting year. I mean, Dan Campbell came in and did exactly what nobody else in the history of the Super Bowl era could do. Win playoff games and give the city hope. Detroit. Now, some of you might be saying, well, it's just a sport. Who cares? See, the thing is, I can't explain why I like sports or why sports are important, but I like cheering for something. You always want a champion, right? And Detroit, I mean, it's been through a rough couple of decades, and it needs its champion. And the Lions could be it. The Lions could very well be it. So I think now it's time to sit down, enjoy this win for the first time. Settle our nerves a little bit, because, boy, that was a very exciting game. And then, well, on to the next one. On to the next one. We will be, based on the current standings, we'll be facing either the Philadelphia Eagles or the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, which, again, the Eagles had a late season collapse, and we've already beaten the Bucs in Tampa Bay. So there's a real chance that we could be, you know what, I'm not going to say it. We're just going to have to wait and see. But for the first time, Detroit has hope. And hope is what we need. Because, again, Detroit's one of those cities that kind of, just like the team, it kind of peaked in the 50s and kind of had a tumultuous couple of decades since then. But just like the city, which has probably recovered from its historic lows, which probably would have been around 2008, 2009, which ironically coincided with the infamous 0-16 season for the Detroit Lions. We can now look forward to the future. We bottomed out. Only way is up. So Detroit, be responsible, stay safe, and bring that energy with you again next week, because we're going to need it. Because whoever's going to come in, I mean, hey, finally that chip is off our shoulder. It's time to unleash the roar, so to say, and to give Detroit what it needs, a glimmer of hope, a champion, a morale boost to the city, to the players, to the people. That is what we need. Detroit, by the way, for those of you that may not know, Detroit's actually a nice city. I mean, I've been there. It's got good and bad areas, just like anywhere else, but it's good. I like Detroit, out there on the cold lake. right across the border. Would be an awesome sight to see the next playoff game. Be an awesome sight to see another victory and to give Detroit a little bit more hope. And hey, build the momentum, build the strength, and we're gonna need it. We're gonna need to be strong, be confident, because again, I'll be talking more about Detroit like probably in the coming weeks, and you know, maybe discuss Detroit and NFL a little bit more because I like in this whole sports angle. I enjoy talking sports, and if you want me to talk more about sports in this channel, I'll definitely commit more time and energy and resources to researching that. In addition to all the stuff I usually do, I rant about all kinds of things, but definitely tone down like some of the other discussions, which But Detroit needs to be, how to say this? Detroit needs to keep its guard up because just don't forget, Detroit is one of two NFC North teams in the playoffs. They're moving on to the next round. The Packers are there with us. And we're going to need to build energy, strength, momentum, not just this season, which, again, on to next week, but on to next season, because we got a competitor in the Green Bay Packers, and they got their quarterback. But hey, for the first time, I feel like we can compete. I feel like Detroit, because again, we won as a team today. We didn't win as any one individual. We're not relying on a Calvin Johnson or a Barry Sanders to deliver us. No. Or like on defense where we're just like over relied on Dominic Suh to try to make a play. No. We won as a team, as a unit. Well, the team did. We just watched and supported. We gave we gave the energy. Like to quote Dragon Ball Z. Give me your energy. We gave him the energy for the spirit bomb. But we were there. We're there in spirit. And I myself have been to quite a number of Lions games. Always rooted for them as hard as I could. Cheered on them from the sidelines. Watched them on my TV. Always rooted them. Always there in spirit for sure. And energy and in spirit. And sometimes in person. So today is an awesome day. So go out there, Detroit. Have fun. Be responsible. And let's bring it on next week. Thank you for listening. I'll talk to you later.